Hello, tribe. Want to continue on with stories from the Holodomor. And Holodomor, it means essentially forced starvation or something like that. It was a period of time when the Soviet Union was trying to collectivize the peasant farmers, and they used starvation to do that. And it was a 4-year period from 29 through 33. And they wiped out entire regions, their whole villages that ceased to exist because everybody had died of starvation. These are the kind of things that communism brings. Incompetent bureaucrats and uncaring leaders are capable of doing horrendous things to people. And when, if ever, their methods are called out, they just simply say, oh well, we were trying to do good. So I like telling real stories. It gets away from all the internet nonsense. This is how societies become under socialism and then communism. Extremely repressed to the point of being starved to death. So let's hear from Nadia Shulha. She says, my mother and father went to Voronezh in the Russian SFSR. You had to go through Kiev to get to Voronezh. In Voronezh, they were able to trade some things for some grain and bread, and were returning home. In Kiev, there was an old and a new railroad station. You couldn't get into the new station without a ticket, and tickets were sold only in the morning. There were hundreds of people there, not only my mother and father, and they had to wait near the old station. Just before they could go buy tickets, the police came. Listen to this. The police came. The police lined the people up and took everything away. They could only keep one loaf of bread each. And you couldn't say a word because they could kill you. The police did these things, and it was completely legal. To take everything you had, all the food you had, and to kill you if you complained or resisted. I remember how my parents were crying when they came back. By the time they returned, 2 of my sisters had died. I know that they died, but where they died, in the house or on the road, that I don't know. I just know that they died. I know how they buried my father after he died. My father got an infection in the spring and died. You need antibiotics. I know how they buried my father after he died. I'm sorry, I'm repeating. My father got an infection in the spring and died. My mother's sister, her husband, and their 3 middle children died. In the neighboring house, the entire family died. Only the owls in the attic were left. Our other neighbors had 3 children, and only 1 girl survived. That's from Nadia. Now let's hear from Vasil Dudka. Vasil, they dekulakized. There was nothing left. There was nothing left. They took everything. Interviewer, who came? Can you describe this? Vasil, they were ours. Locals. The whole gang was drunk and they took everything. First, there was snow. So they threw my grandmother and my mother out in the snow. When I came home from school, it was getting dark, and I saw that there was no light. My grandmother always waited for me, but here there was no light in the house. My mother called me, "Come here, son. We're sitting over here." I came there, and they made me a space. I lay down between them. There was a lot of snow, and at 3 or 4 o'clock, our neighbor, who lived across the street, who was a mechanic, we had a mill and an oil mill. which worked 24 hours a day. He saw what was happening to us and took us in. He had a shed and he put us up there. In the morning, those bandits who threw us out came by and stripped my mother and my grandmother. They were searching for gold. Because when they first took everything, my mother's father was wealthy and he gave her a lot of silverware, spoons, forks, everything. They took it all earlier. Interviewer: when was it that they came for your mother? Was it winter? VD: it was in the morning. Interviewer: but what is it, the winter of 32? Yes. There was snow already. It was pretty cold already. And they told this neighbor that he didn't have the right to put us up. Night and day, they would ship out the grain. There was a lot of people working there at the grain storage. And when my sister worked there, I brought her lunch. This was already after the famine. Interviewer: but during the famine, they shipped this grain out? VD: they shipped it out during the famine too. The train cars stood there and they loaded them day and night. Day and night they loaded it and shipped it out. The grain there, you can't understand. I was there inside. It was in heaps, 7 to 8 meters high, like 2 stories. And every 10 to 15 feet, there were poles in the grain that had thermometers at the bottom. And every day they would check the temperature. And when the temperature began to rise, immediately they would send in 20 or 30 women with wooden shovels to turn over the grain. There was a lot of dust from this. You couldn't go in there because it's very dangerous when it starts to ferment. Interviewer: and you saw this? That day and night they shipped out this grain? VD: day and night. They threw them out of the house into the snow and then stripped the women looking for gold. And all of that was legal. I'll say it again. All of that was legal. Evdokia, her story. My father went somewhere and never came back. He was gone for a few days and my mother went to look for him. I remember as if it were today. She came back with a document and read it. The document said that they had found our father on the street. He was dead and they had already buried him. That's how we found out our father wouldn't be coming home. My mother was left alone without any food to give us or anything to trade for food. She took off her ring and earrings and went to trade them. We waited for her and my mother never came back. After a while, some officials came and told us that our parents were gone and that we had to go with them, the officials. They threw out all the things we had with us. I still remember my father's hat. They took us to a train car, which was already full of children. I dragged my little brother, who hadn't learned how to walk yet, along with me. They gave us a piece of bread and a piece of sugar. We ate it and went to sleep. In the morning, when I got up, both my brothers were gone. I asked, where's Hritsko, Vasil, and Sashko, the little one? He probably grew up not knowing who he is at all. The woman told me that they were taken to a school, but that I was too small to go to school, so I was taken to an orphanage. At the orphanage, I was ill with typhus, and children were dying in the hospital. From the balcony, I saw them bringing cartloads of corpses and throwing them in a pit. They didn't let me contact my family on purpose. Why? They wanted me to forget. But I still remember a bit. My little brother probably doesn't, but I remember. That was their goal. They must have known whose children we were when Stalin was alive, and even after his death. You didn't have the right to search for anyone because there was no famine, and nobody listened to the few that were left. There was no famine. Just like the current administration says, there is no inflation. And you're not allowed to talk about it. Be prepared for this, people, because it's coming. Get prepared now while you still have a chance. I believe that time is short, very short, but you still have an opportunity. Don't let the opportunity be wasted. Prepare and pray. God bless you all. Take care, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.